modest, never one to brag about himself, and I never knew of this promotion. Years of acquisitions and the possibility of being relocated away from Glenwood led my dad to a new career path. He started a business in Alexandria with Edward Jones. All of those years working for the bank, my dad had to dress wearing a suit or a sweater and a tie. And each morning while I lived at home, he would poke his head into my bedroom and ask a tired teenager if what he was wearing matched. And I'm fairly certain that after a month of wearing the same tie and the same sweater, he knew which clothes matched and which ones didn't. But it was his way to connect with me, and it became part of our routine. One of the things that my dad always said to us, as he may have said to some of you, was to live for today, but plan for tomorrow. Live for today, plan for tomorrow. The live for today part were the vacations, the time in Mexico, time in Arizona, his golf course time, and his time at the woods. The plan for tomorrow was the working, the saving, the goal setting, and the list making. My dad would have a list going every weekend of the things that he wanted to accomplish in those 2 days. And he always said, start off easy. If you can cross something off your list right away, you're going to move on to the next thing and it won't seem like a big deal. So what were the first 2 things on the top of his list every weekend? Wake up, brush teeth. He was able to check off 2 items immediately in the morning, always the list maker. In fact, the day that he was diagnosed, he came home and began his last list. The list of things to take care of for my family. He worked hard, rarely missing a day of work, and was able to retire early. That is an accomplishment. My parents had 2 fantastic years of their retirement together. Most would say that they were robbed, that they only had 2 years. But the 2 years that they did have were relaxing and tender and endearing. Not that my parents ever fell out of love, but they realized again what made their relationship so strong and so healthy. This was a time for them to get to know one another again. Both were a little nervous after having worked full-time, the thoughts of spending all of this retirement time together. But as always, theirs was a harmonious and respectful relationship. My dad loved my mom with every ounce of his being. Sometimes I was privy to that look, the look that he would give her that was pure love. He was respectful, always, encouraging, tender, and affectionate. He always said his favorite time of day was when he could snuggle up next to her in bed. Well, during those 2 years of retirement, they did a little bit of role reversal. My mom found herself sitting on the dock catching sunnies, and my dad enjoyed putzing in the kitchen, trying to perfect his version of the ultimate chocolate chip cookie. The laptop found a new home on the table so my dad could peruse the internet for whatever hankering he had that day. And always the joker. My dad was one for practical jokes and teasing. He teased all of our friends and all of our cousins about their possible boyfriends or girlfriends, and he teased them incessantly. Mind you, my friends are 35 years old. We knew we could never enjoy a hot shower or a moment in the bathroom to ourselves without the inevitable knock on the door announcing a phone call that was never there. It was just his way. He was also known in our family for the infamous nose flick, and that is when you point to your chest, think that there's a piece of food or a button that's not buttoned or linked, and you look down and he flicks you in the nose. Well, somehow he's been able to get everyone in my family with this joke, but only one person has been able to get him. And thankfully, when my dad fell for the joke, he was in a room full of people who appreciated him being on the receiving end. One of the places that my dad felt quite at home was at the Minnewaska Golf Club. He loved the game and felt fondly of the relationships that formed and those that were strengthened on the course. That part favorite place were the woods. It was his slice of heaven. Every year he tells Andy and me about the peace of the woods, the changing of the colors, the sound of the wind and the animal calls. He spent a lot of years there with family and friends. When Andy was living at home, he would occasionally be let out of school early to get a jump start on the weekend. The notes to the school would ask to excuse Andy, quote, for he will be on an outdoor educational experience with his father. I know the hunt was thrilling for him, but more than anything, he enjoyed being outside and the warm embrace of those autumn afternoons. He also enjoyed taking quarters off of his nephews at deer camp and the camaraderie with his best friends during deer hunting season. This was their time to talk smart, solve the problems of the world, show off the retrieving skills of their dogs, and sit around a grill or a bonfire. The woods during hunting season were my dad's favorite time of year. So when Josh and I announced that we were getting married on October 13th, smack dab in the middle of hunting season, didn't go over too well. The woods were his place of peace and tranquility. My dad's never been a religious man, but he was definitely spiritual. He felt in touch with God, especially while at the woods. My family has lived in our house for 32 years. This, his home, was his favorite place. It's where he was the most comfortable, where he taught Andy and I how to swim, where he welcomed all of our friends and family. He reigned over the grill, where he and my mom shared a beautiful life together, and where he died peacefully. I will remember him sitting on the front yard reading a Louis L'Amour book, tossing the ball for our dog Angie, watching the shadows grow longer as the day came to a close. What we, his friends and family, will miss him the most and thank him for are his guidance and his counsel, his acceptance, his role model behavior, and his work ethic, his appreciation for all things sweet and some not so, glorified rice, cookies, and lutefisk, his unbiased approach and level-headed manner, his nicknames for us, his Jean Ann, Bucko, and Karena Butt, his fried sunfish, and his affection, either in the form of teasing or the embrace of a big hug. My husband Josh and I had our first child last spring, and during the pregnancy, we anticipated the delivery day. We talked about it, we wondered, we speculated, we gave so much thought to that day and that event. Well, it being the first grandchild on either side was a very big deal, so we invited my in-laws, Andy and Gabby, and of course my parents, to be in the room with us up until the delivery. Things started to get kind of chaotic. The umbilical cord had wrapped around my son's neck and we needed to have an emergency C-section. And during this fear and anxiety, all the hubbub of activity in the room, my husband was on my left-hand side, and my dad was standing at the foot of the bed. And he just looked at me, and he nodded, and he smiled. And it was a nod and a smile of encouragement that it was going to be okay. And it was. And this is going to be okay too. My parents speculated, they wondered, and they talked about their retirement in their later years. And cancer was never a part of that conversation.